Okay, very good evening, everyone. In the last session that we are having, we had a panel discussions, and you have been listening to some of those discussions on a software supply chain and how to manage the ODA vulnerabilities, etc. So we thought, to come out of that panel discussion mode and just have some real-time stuff, talk about some of those case studies where, we can learn about the ransomware attacks for that matter. What are the tactic, techniques and procedures are being followed in one of the last 1.5 years when this pandemic started, and how exactly the MITRE attack framework is helping organizations to understand the tactic, techniques and procedures, to defend against the ransomware attacks. It's not just ransomware attack, but now it's evolving as one of the deadliest ransomware as a service, which has the multiple extortion models that they have, double, triple, 4 time, or maybe multiple time extortions. So I think that's what the topic for today, to talk about how to defend the ransomware, by making use or maybe leveraging some of the tactic, techniques, procedures that we have as part of MITRE attack framework. And as you all know that, we have came a long way from detecting the malwares from signatures, blocking it at the perimeter, and then, just defending ourselves. It's no more the approach. It's like more of, learning the behavior about that particular malware, whether it is ransomware or any kind of a malware. So the evaluation has definitely has from the antiviruses, then endpoint protection platforms to XDR, what we discussed in the morning, right? So that evaluation is a clearly indicative, and while we are having those capabilities and security solutions developed, but it is very important to understand the mindset of an attacker, what exactly he is trying to do in your environment, what tactic, techniques and procedures that he follow when he gets into your environment. I think that's where today's session is all about. So I think to start with, the one report that as part of DSCI Threat Intelligence and Research Initiative that we published. So myself, Vivek Sarkale, I work in the capacity of senior consultant in DSCI, and I lead a DSCI Threat Intelligence Initiative. We work very closely with all members, and we usually share and exchanges the threat intelligence on day-to-day basis with our members. Those are in strategic, tactical and technical in nature. Just to quickly, demystify the threat landscape, what we have today is more of, the cloud-specific threats that we have seen, which are more of emerging these days, misconfigurations, some of those deadliest malwares, which are really becoming a commodity, and those data leaks are which is really organizations are worried about, because now, due to the higher regulatory compliance and etc. So this kind of vulnerabilities and misconfigurations on our rise. Then, phishing becomes, key target and maybe a key attack vector that attackers are using against the organizations. Apart from that, the very important thing which we're going to talk about is the ransomware as a service today, and some of the interesting case studies that I have, Kinshuk having the wide experience working in the security operations centers, some of the incidents that he has already seen or handled successfully. So he's going to present some of those incidents and some of those case studies. Adi also have some of those case studies from his incident response experience. So I think that's the overall gamut. So if you talk about this threat landscape, those are really sophisticated, because most of those malwares are very much polymorphic in nature. I think we will talk about some of those Revil group and some of those other examples where, one malware is capable of doing multiple things. Those are mainly a multi-vector. Those are not just capable of just encrypting your files, but it is capable to exfiltrate data from your machines. It is also capable to conduct the mass distributed denial of service. It can also sometimes act as a spyware. So it's a complete whole package altogether, which is completely polymorphic and multi-vector in nature. Sometime in the morning we were talking about dwell time and how long attacker is in your environment. You never know, right? You come to know unless it is not exploited, or it is not a mass infection, right? Unless you know that there is something happening in your environment. So some of those are logic bombs also, that attacker create a persistent in your environment, and then it try to exfiltrate and make lateral and lateral movements, and then exploit suddenly. Then you come to know, oh, there is a breach or there is attack. So these are the some of those characteristics it has shown. More importantly, I think is that we have been developing some of the technologies to learn techniques and procedures like sandboxing techniques and other. But now again, malware is becoming more smarter and more, they are more advanced. So that they started identifying whether sandbox is running. So they started evading from sandbox. They are not showing real behavior when it is implemented on the sandbox. So there is advancement and sophistication is also happening at the bad guys end, and that's why I think today's topic is all about to learning their mindset, learning how they are moving towards your infrastructure, what are the techniques and procedures that they are following when they are moving to the your infrastructure. So as per the report which I was talking about, these are some of the indicative list of groups, the Revil group, Logbit, DRCry. I think these are the names that we hear a lot in last 6 months or 1 year of time frame. I have just picked these because those are more sophisticated. The kind of characteristics we talk about, those are multi-vector in nature, those are polymorphic in nature, those are tend to show different behaviors when they are in the different environments. They are continuously changing their signatures and behaviors. So I think this is the indicative list, and that's why I think the MITRE attack kind of a framework will definitely help us in terms of defending against those ransomwares. To quickly talk about the attack delivery. So these are the attack delivery. I will not go one by one because in the part of case studies we are going to see what are those mechanisms that are being used. So these are some of the attack delivery techniques that is being used. So there is exploiting some of those vulnerability. I think previous session we talked about it. Exploited zero-day vulnerabilities and some of the known vulnerabilities, unknown vulnerabilities. Then after pandemic, we heavily relied on the remote communication, right? The VPN or maybe RDPs. So attackers were continuously identifying some of those critical vulnerability which can get attacker access into critical systems, get access into some of those administrative privileges which can be used to run the payload, and then it can convert into the mass infection by using some of the PS execute kind of a commands, or maybe using tools like a Mimicache to do like a lateral credential dumping and then conduct the mass infection or mass attack against this particular organization. So Kaseya supply chain attack, I think recently someone talked about. That's a good example of mass supply chain ransomware attack. So I think this kind of attacks and this kind of attack deliveries are definitely there, and those are evolving. We will try to cover that part of our case studies. And then the sample propagation that it happens, right? Definitely organization now started understanding ransomware after the WannaCry incident. Then people started putting a lot of efforts on the backup, right? Started taking primary backup, secondary backup, tertiary backup, whatever. But again, the one step ahead, attackers have started encrypting even your backups also, like the secondary backup, even if it is in the same environment or in the different environment. So the backup was no more becoming like a very it's a very it's not that permanent solution to the ransomware as a service, because as a part of propagation, if you see, even before attackers are encrypting any of those files or folders on the particular infrastructure, there is one phase. I think one of the tactics also it is there as a part of MITRE framework is a data exfiltration. I think because of the regulatory compliance like a GDPR and some other compliances, data becomes very critical for every organization, and for that, attackers started exploiting data out of the infrastructure, and that it's very difficult to monitor SSL traffic, what exactly going and what exactly coming. So that's why data exfiltration becomes a very easy and very successful technique for the attackers. And that's where once data is exploited, then no matter whether you have a backup or no backup, they will come as a double extortion, right? They will say that, okay, if you're not paying ransomware, then we have your data and we may make it public, even though you recover from your databases. So that's the kind of a double extortion that techniques that they have got into this particular game of ransomware as a service. Even though people started taking some of those measures for data exfiltration, then there is a triple extortion which being introduced, where once they get the data, they have entire information about who are your clients, whom you mostly interact with, and then they started communicating those clients which you work with, and then they start conducting some distributed denial of service and their infrastructure, and ask their clients to pay, ask your particular organization to pay ransomware. That means there is a third time extortion that attackers started putting on the organizations. So contacting customers, telling them that put pressure on your provider because their data is all compromised along with your data. Anyway, we are conducting DDoS attacks on you. So if it is not paid, we will definitely continue doing DDoS attack or availability attack unless and until we get the enough amount of amount from the provider. So this is a triple extortion, and there are fourth and fifth type of extortion also now we have seen in some of the cases. So this is the deadliest propagation that we have seen, and some of the attack delivery mechanism are definitely evolving, which I just now mentioned. These are some of the key characteristics. I think we cover that part of our use cases. So these are some of the key characteristics that being observed, right? One is the polymorphic behavior. I think we just talk about. Then data exfiltration. I think briefly we just seen the example of data exfiltration. Association with the malware, yeah, means not just one malware gang is working against the organization, but it is more coordinated and targeted attack that 2 or 3 different groups working together to attack a single organization to get the ransomware, get the ransom. Then defacing some of the public applications, identifying targets prior hand, and then attacking it in a stepwise manner so that detection becomes difficult. So I think these are some of the characteristics that we have seen in last 1 year when we are interacting with some of the members and some of those stakeholders. So I think while talking about this, I think that's what today's topic is all about. While we are talking about these characteristics of ransomwares and characteristics of malwares, how easily we can learn the mindset or maybe learns about a tactic, techniques and procedures of attacker when he is moving through, right? From the initial access, from reconnaissance to the exploitation stage. Because once it has reached to the exploitation and mass infection, then usually things are not in our hand. We don't know what exactly attacker is going to do in our infrastructure. So I think that is what we thought, from the regular panel discussion, let's talk about some of those case studies where attacker successfully executed the ransomware attack. And I have a Kinshuk with me from a TCS. He has a diverse experience handling some of those incidents, and he'll be taking us through all the 3 use cases where he will talk about it, and he will also put a perspective that how MITRE will frame it or help us to detect the attacks in the early phases of the attack life cycle. So over to you, Kinshuk. So this is the back.
Okay, so the topic is very clear. Anybody here who thinks otherwise, that the ransomware is the biggest threat to the digital business? Anybody thinks otherwise? Can any attack impact you worse than what a ransomware impacts? Anybody has got any other view? Somebody will say denial of service, somebody will say data exfiltration. Anybody's got any other view? I'll say in Hindi, कोई और चीज ऐसा कुछ कर सकता है जो हमारी जिंदगी और इससे खराब कर सकती है. No, I said, but at the end of it, what is the objective? Can somebody worst, a disgruntled employee will also do a ransomware? Is there something as an impact worse than a ransomware attack in anything IT? You tell me. Now you're going into, it's again business. I'm talking about business. So business can die from the digital aspect. Ransomware can kill it. Somebody, all these years, what were we struggling with? People took away our data. Morning we heard about Target. I think Target is here, I don't know. Target went through one of the worst breaches in 2013, where over 100 million records were stolen. And there are enough. We looked at Yahoo. We sometime back looked at the LinkedIn. Last year, Facebook was is in news. So now we have given up. We have given up data breach. What can it do? It takes away my name, my PII, my date of birth, my email address, my debit card number. So what? Anyway, privacy in India is dead, no? Anybody thinks otherwise? Yesterday I was speaking in Delhi. Sanjay Behel was there. Lieutenant General Pant, who heads our security, he's the National Cybersecurity Coordinator, he was there. And at the end of it, finally, we all agreed that security is paramount, privacy comes second. Okay? So ransomware, now we know, whatever we have spoken today, since morning, since yesterday, ransomware is the deadliest missile, bomb, virus. It is something that can kill us absolutely. So this is the worst COVID virus that we have today in digital world. Next. How does a attack? So the threat actors also have become fed up. Denial of service. Just last couple of days back, Google had a denial of service attack which went from 100K requests per second. Within couple of minutes, it hit 46 million requests per second. At the end of it, what will it impact? Harchij, let us look at the impact. What can it kill you? Business availability. That's all. Google GCP would have been down for a couple of hours. Availability, no. Ransomware can bring down your whole company, can finish your company. I don't want to give some names here, but there are some companies which have got smothered away from the surface of the earth because of ransomware attacks. So how does it happen? Vulnerable password, people keep admin as the password. They don't even change admin. You're not supposed to keep admin, root, administrator as your account IDs also. Those are the default. But first is the user ID and then the password. We are obviously all organizations supposed to have some password policy. I will not go into how many characters, alphanumeric, etc., etc. So there are weak passwords. Phishing. Mails are delivered either with a payload or with a link. Our dear employees click it and then they go to a website. There they, it may be a, what's it called, a watering hole or, a compromised site. He will download a malware and, or he'll download a file, an Excel file or a simple PDF file, and he'll execute it. Then the Microsoft Word will say, do I enable macros? And he will say yes. Finished. Phishing. From there, the COVID virus is inside your computer. I'll make it absolutely simple, and I'm telling you out of real life experience. Or a vulnerability. Just before this, we're talking about application security. So it is a public-facing website, OWASP top 10 vulnerability or your infrastructure, etc. He will come and exploit something. It is not that the vulnerability, that an exploit exists. Hackers don't do anything which is very, very sophisticated. 90% are all standard open source, open data available. They log in. Hackers log in. On the last day of the attack, they all log in. They come like legitimate users. They will exploit. And then he will come in, then he will obtain credentials. Because he may have come in as a user, normal user, no? I go, all of you are, some of you, I don't know. There is a, I don't know if you go to dark web. Has anybody gone to dark web here? Nobody's gone to dark web. Okay. What do you use? Tor browser? Tor browser? And which OS? Tails? Kali, okay, Kali. Or you can, anyway, or you set up a VPN, use Tor, so that you anonymize yourself, remove persistence, so that he doesn't know that what you're doing. That's right? Okay. So, at the end of it, there you get his credentials for $5 of his organization, or his credentials for $10. Initial access, no? That's all. Yeah, I've done some work. I'm selling it. See, all those data of the 100 million records, all $10, $20 in dark web. In dark web, you can get US citizenship from date of birth to social security number to a passport for $2,000 delivered to your house, wherever you want, including, well, who was this Russian girl who got killed 4 days back, Dugina? Okay, so there was a lot of chatter there that you hired a hacker, hired a killer. Okay, so we were all somehow. So anyway, you obtain credentials. It's initial credentials, but you need to explore. You need to elevate yourself. So you need administrators' credentials, domain admin. Nothing like a domain admin. Most juicy piece of the meat. Then you install. Once you're a domain admin, you've got access. You can log in from here, RDP onto his machine, do a WMI or a PS exec onto his machine, or a simple command prompt itself is enough, or a PowerShell. Any of these things, and you install a malware. 9 out of 10 ransomware attacks are on Windows platform. I'm telling you very clearly. 9 out of 10 is on Windows. So if you're on Linux or you're on any other things, you're much better off. He will come in, he will put it on, he wants to go to your group policy. That means he'll go to your domain controller, he will modify your group policy. From the group policy, he wants to, he has to run a sequence, no? He has to run a sequence thereafter. Credentials he's got, he will prepare a malware for you, which is the detonating malware, the ransomware. So he will get hold of 10 domain admin privileges. Not one, he will have 10. I've seen attacks where when we reverse, decompiled the malware, there were 10 or there were 35 in one attack of a European customer, 35 domain admin and service IDs, hard-coded username password. And then now he's got persistence. He is the king within your organization. You are the praja. That means even if you shut down your machine, a scheduled task will run. He will again, when you boot up, auto run, scheduled task, the same malware will again start up. He's the stager. There's a listener sitting on DigitalOcean. That chap has just put in a credit card number, not paid any money. He is the listener. So all your news are reporting back to him. One day the listener will execute, tell through the group policy, execute the batch file, schedule task, ransomware file is kept in this directory, the batch file will run, execute the ransomware. That is the day, that is the D-day that the enterprise goes dead for at least 3 weeks. When I've seen any of these attacks, 3 weeks is minimum. That is the time a CISO tells his CEO, sir, no sir, 4 hours sir, 8 hours sir. Trust me, nobody has come up before 3 weeks of a major attack. I'm not talking about a life cycle. And then, he will do lateral movement, privilege escalation, these are all part of that middle stage. By then he's got persistence. And then finally he will take your data exfilled, because at the end of it, if you don't pay him, a clock will continuously show $10 million. After 12 hours it will show extortion, $20 million. Your desktop will become a clock, like this clock here, which is saying 22 minutes. I've only got 5-7 minutes. Then by then data exfiltration, then he will put that same 100 million records for $200. I'm from Tata. My chief digital officer of the Tata Group. We went through one of our Tata Group companies, very recently one attack. They took away all our data. It is a one retail chain of ours. We have 100+ companies. And at the end of it, obviously she asked, Kinshuk, can you go and check where all this data of ours is, sitting? And it was sitting on RAID forum, which is the normal, www. But it is also sitting there, at the end of it, the chap is fed up. He says, yeah, this data, I don't know, I got it from somewhere, etc. If it is of use to anybody, take it. One of our digital retail chain, electronics. I'll not give you the name. Okay. One of the Tata Group companies. Okay. Encrypt and he's extort. So I'll quickly, I jumped out a little. 1 minute, I'm sorry. Okay, so we went into this. So, yeah. think that should be okay. You've seen this? The slides are a
case
little
study
jumped
one.
up. Jumping. The MITRE slides are missed. Okay, yeah. So thank you. So there is a framework called MITRE, attack framework, adversarial tactics and techniques. What MITRE has tried to, whatever I've explained, he's tried to nicely bucket it and said there are 14 tactics and there are some techniques which this attacker can use against me. 14 tactics, some techniques, and some sub-techniques. Okay, so 14 about 190 techniques, etc. And an attacker can come in from, he can use a public exploit, a public facing website. He can come through phishing, whatever. Attackers are very unstructured people. They don't have good program management, nothing. They will come, they will keep trying, they will sit in your environment 3 months. Friday evening is the standard day when I want to pack up early and go back to my home, and then suddenly we get a call, sir, that customer has badly, I think everything is down, internet has been shut down, so we need you to get inside. Okay, so this is, but he will, so that is the day when he's detonating your organization. But he would, before that, he would have been following all these paths. I will not go into too much of these. I will just go catch one, initial access, because he has to get into your organization. No? See, reconnaissance is before he's actually got in. He's doing, he's doing a port scan, he's seeing your, if you're chroma.com, then he will say, what is chroma in the public world, etc. He will do all this. This is initial access. What all does he do? He can do all this, no? Drive-by compromise, that means he takes you to a fake website of chromadigital.com. She doesn't know what is the difference between chroma.com and chromadigital.com or something of that nature. So you have taken drive-by compromise, or a watering hole, what we also say. Or you yourself go to they exploit your, today we are trying to do digital continuously, we are creating applications and with vulnerabilities. Known vulnerabilities, known exploit. He does a web shell, slowly enters and moves around. External remote service. This is the easiest. $10 in dark web. If you get RDP access, your life is done. If you get RDP access to a website, to an enterprise, do you need anything else? 80% ransomware. If you get an RDP access, username, password, your life is done as an attacker. That's all. Port 3389 open, finished. RDP, username, password. If there is no multi-factor authentication, finished. The organization is a dead meat. Okay. Then phishing, he has to struggle a little bit more. He needs, he needs some, users to click, and then he will slowly escalate privileges. Tough method. Stuxnet like, USB. And these are supply chain compromise. These are all tougher methods for him to get inside. Trusted relationship, valid accounts, gets hold of valid account. So these are some 9 methods of initial access. And there are similarly sub-techniques within phishing, spear phishing links, spear phishing via service, etc. So you understood, so everybody is clear now what is MITRE. It is tactics, techniques, sub-techniques, method by which an attacker attacks you. So I have to develop a countermeasure to all this. I will not go into the right side, it is all known. Okay, so I'm going into one case study. These are all real case studies because after every attack, I have to present to our management what happened. A root cause analysis. After containment and eradication is over. Because the last stage of protect, detect, respond and recover is blame game. Every CISO, please know, your moment you have an attack, at some stage your job is at stake. I'm being very honest. Then he is looking at the service provider, can I deflect? I have to also now start, putting my, bullet-proof jacket and all, because we have service providers at the end of it. Okay, so attacker. So I'm not going. This is so you understood an attack pattern. He has come in. This is a typical environment. Every enterprise, matured organization has a firewall, Palo Alto firewalls, etc. With IDS, IPS, or either of them. Email gateway, M365 environment, or old Lotus Notes environment. I don't know where you are in your journey of thing, or web gateway, Zscaler, some proxy, or worst case, Squid proxy. Where our customers don't play, we put Squid proxy, Don't have any content filtering, etc. It's a proxy. VPN. Finally, everybody, hybrid working, he comes through a VPN. Now, in your VPN, if you don't have username, if you don't have MFA, you are again dead. It's like your RDP. 6 out of 10 ransomware attacks that I have seen, cause was VPN with only username password, where if I've got Cisco AnyConnect, I go download Cisco AnyConnect in my personal laptop, install it, put username, that URL, put username, password, and I'm inside that organization. Everybody thinks some VPN is some magic security tool. It is not. If you don't have what you call MFA in it, you're finished. Okay, so VDI is slightly better. Okay, so here is an attack, phishing email. He clicks a URL. Now, what is he trying to do? Kerberoasting. Anybody knows? Kerberoasting is the old Active Directory protocol in which I request, he sends me, it's a handshake, I get a token, at the end of it I get a token, which has got a certain period of time for access to a service. There is a service ID which is involved. It's called a SPN ID, SPN. At the end of it, it is encrypted. I will not go too much into it. It is encrypted by the requester's passwords hash. So why is he trying to get hold of the Kerberos tickets? Because he needs to escalate his privilege. No, he's trying to get hold of these Kerberos tickets or tokens which are encrypted, so that he can offline take it, brute force, get hold of the passwords from the hashes. Tough method, but at the end of it, password nahi mila, so you have to go this way. Kerberos, he's entered the network. He's only got initial access. Enterprise user, he's still not even local admin, he's not even domain admin. Then you will run SMB scans, try and brute force, either brute force or password spray. Okay, exploit some vulnerability within the enterprise. And if he's got something, he will go into one machine, he will run, at the end of it, he wants to run Mimikat something. Mimikatz, Cobalt Strike, there are only 2 or 3 tools they are all using. They are not very sophisticated people. They have got a very structured way of doing things. With Mimikatz, it's simple command line tool. If he's installed Mimikatz inside an environment, he can get hold of credentials, or he can pass the token. Mimikatz is a simple, like DOS. You can pass various commands and run various malicious commands within your organization. Okay, in that particular machine on which you are running Mimikatz. So he can pass the hash, pass the token, he can pass the hash. So that means he doesn't need to, if he's got hold of the hash, which is of your password, he does not need your password. With earlier Kerberos, he's got hold of the hash. He will pass the hash directly to your KDC to authenticate you, or your Active Directory domain controller to thing, and get access. So Mimikatz gives you all these easy tools. So he's now one machine to another machine. I've made it simple. There are only 2 machines, and he's moving. At some stage, EDR tool will, because at some stage he's starting where his process execution. Antivirus is dead. Signature-based antivirus will not pick up half the things, because Mimikatz itself has got more than 70 variants. And every day he will change one couple of bytes and he will launch another one. But at some stage an EDR detected it, various process executions happening. He is also trying to do brute force. That means either a login is getting successful, 4624, 4625, if the login is failing, process execution 4688, all this data is going into your SIM. And SIM has got rules. Various rules, use cases, which are sending out alerts, notifications, offenses. Whether you're running Splunk, Logarithm, QRadar, Sentinel, whatever be your tool. So, in this first case, it was contained. I don't want to give a green picture in the end that it was contained. Maybe it was not contained. Okay. Second case. I will not go into too much detail about this attack. A threat actor, VPN, username, password. This is a South American large banking customer. Let us say Mexico, Brazil region. He did brute force and he got in to the enterprise. No, so MFA, if you 100% go cry to your CISOs or cry your, if you're the CISO, cry to your thing. If you don't have MFA, EDR, I will just, in the end, probably we'll talk about few things. You are inviting for trouble. I will come to, all your questions will be answered. Here how he's doing a very smart thing. He has to do something within an organization. He can't download Mimikatz. He's taken Mimikatz, he's changed, there is a simple utility within Windows called certutil. He's changed base 64 encoding using certutil and created a file. Now it's a text file. He's downloaded that text file. So Mimikatz doesn't get caught anywhere in the movement of a text file. The text file comes in, the batch file comes in to the organization. Now he is obviously, he's every machine. What he's trying to do is deploy. Now he's got hold of a. Now he will again decode it. That means he has to change the 1.txt file, which is actually Mimikatz, into m.exe, which is Mimikatz, which he will execute. And to execute it, he needs a script, and he has to run Mimikatz on all machines. Password चाहिए ना, बहुत सारा local admin password चाहिए, domain admin password चाहिए. If it is a domain administrator, I actually want to really run Mimikatz on a domain controller. So he does all this, and I will not go into too much detail. So at some stage in this whole execution, Microsoft Defender caught him. And similarly, we saw some disjointed alerts in the SIM. So that SIM, while I run this business we run over 125 security operation centers for global customers, from the biggest banks in US to whatever. SIM gives you, while we say SIM is a correlation engine, but it gives you one alert which an analyst looks at it as a ticket. Mindset of an analyst is, यार मेरे पास दिन में in his 8-hour shift, everybody now is, whoever lives with this will, for him it is a ticket. It is not an alert, it's not a threat event. He considers it as a ticket. He wants to close the ticket. He will write some garbage and close the ticket. If it is a malware, he will say, okay, check malware. Achha, malware quarantine the file. In Hindi, I asked my analyst, अगर एंटीवायरस ने क्वारंटाइन कर दिया तो तुम क्या कर रहे हो बैठ के? मिस्टर एनालिस्ट, तुम्हारा काम है, malware was a rat, उसने और कुछ डाउनलोड करके उसने एक और malware डाउनलोड कर लिया या और ये malware कितने machines और में, उसका काम है critical thinking करना. That is the analyst's job, but he doesn't do that. And what happens is, so SIM, it's a good tool, but provided you have good use cases and you've got a smart, experienced analyst sitting on the SIM console. Otherwise, it's a dumb tool. Absolutely. Anybody who's got any other views apart? See, at the end of it, you need a good analyst who will, why do you go to a good doctor? Both are MBBS, but you go to a good doctor because he will say, Khasi, nahi, get your lungs checked, or get this checked, go for this CT scan. अपना blood भी जरा check करा लो, मेरे को आपका eosinophil because that is experience. A 4 years experience is 4 years experience. It is not 4 days experience. So it was caught. Okay, I'm sorry. So the third one is one of the major ransomware attack which we went through. I will not go into too much details. If you see, it is a very large European customer, manufacturing customer. They obviously had some Russian operations. They installed an app in Russia. They set up a few servers, representational office called TikiWiki. It's a Russian app, content management software. So it had vulnerabilities from there. So when we did the whole analysis, we found all these things. TikiWiki mein remote code execution ho raha tha, because later when we saw 4688, all these in the logs. Baad mein it is easy to find out everything. It is a priori to find out is difficult. Mass distribution of malware using group policies, GPO. I am telling you, ransomware, its start point will be, while he's do all this, but he will start from that, the mother will be GPO, group policy. Here, at the end of it, a battalion of people came in on the day of the attack. One chap did GPO, from the C temp, he took the, ran a batch file, put it on all the machines. There were two files, encryptor file and a command and control file. Both were there. The command and control file is taking orders from his henchmen sitting in DigitalOcean. Okay, the orders are being passed. Now the files are being moved and being executed by a batch file on all the hosts. 1300 hosts encrypted. A company is dead, largest manufacturing company in Europe. Antivirus, database, McAfee, EPO. Database was killed. So anybody who's, let us say it had 40,000 users, anybody who is using in his laptop, he had McAfee encryption. If he's lost his password, database is gone, now he can't recover his laptop also. Yes sir, no sir, anybody's got any doubt? मतलब आपका अगर लैपटॉप का मैकेफे का जो पासवर्ड होता है एन्क्रिप्शन का, if that is lost, you can recover it if your McAfee database, the server is up. He's destroyed the McAfee EPO database server. Lot of RDPs. Active Directory was compromised. Why? 35 plus administrators. What did we find? System IDs having password never expire, password never reset. And domain admin privileges for a system ID. System ID ka kaam is not to do all this, but and he used, obviously system IDs he saw, when he did all this credential harvesting, he found, I don't need actually domain admins. I got my system IDs are doing all the tasks of a domain admin. And at the end of it, and SMB version 1 is the Eternal Blue print nightmare, and Eternal Blue vulnerability. WannaCry was there, and they were end of life manufacturing company, old machines, end of life, end of servers. So they were completely finished. Backup. You're supposed to have 3 backups in 3 different places on 2 different media, 1 offline. That is a strategy. When we asked, where is it? He said, sir, we consolidated, cost optimized, so now we have only got this library, and which is dead. So consolidation was the first talk today morning. Be careful. At the end of it, look at the risk. Saving money, you have to be careful. So this is all I wanted to quickly cover. Now probably Aditya will cover 1 or 2 such cases, and then we will, if any questions, we will take it up.
Thank you, Kinshuk, for the marvelous case studies. I mean, extended or comprehensive case studies. This is Adi, also called as Aditya from Qualcomm. I lead the cyber threat intelligence at Qualcomm. So I would be talking about two use cases which are timed into the presentation. Post which I would talk on the strategy, like a three-step strategy where any organization can adopt. So the first case study is about how ransomware campaigns or ransomware threat actors exploit or leverage or weaponize vulnerabilities and get into the organizations. So every organization has software and hardware. So they have vendors, suppliers, and partners as well. So most of the organizations think that their code or their applications are secure. However, they merely focus on the third-party risks. So threat actors often scan the entire cyberspace for the zero-day vulnerabilities or vulnerabilities which are exploits as mentioned in the earlier sessions. And threat actors often scan the cyberspace and try to leverage the exploits and get into the organization and deliver various ransomware payloads. So the main motive or the agenda of the ransomware threat actors is one, financial gain. The second one is brand reputation damage. So this is one of the case study on vulnerability exploitation. The top vulnerabilities which were weaponized or leveraged by various ransomware actors during 2022 were some of these, which had a huge impact because if you see any products related to Microsoft, those are widely used or leveraged or used in an organization, followed by VMware products as well, and followed by different other products. So these were the few of the top vulnerabilities which were leveraged by the threat actors, and I'll be talking on the next case study, which is an interesting one that is related to ransomware threat actors hiring disgruntled employees or insider threat employees or insider employees in order to deliver ransomware variants to their organization. So before we get the slides fired up, I'll talk a little bit on one of the ransomware campaign which leveraged their ransomware note as a hiring note for the disgruntled employees, wherein he's laughing already. So where the note had note states that if you are interested and team up with us, you can provide RDP access of your organization, or disable your security defenses, or pass on the admin credentials, or provide us the privilege access. So these were few of the TTPs which were involved in one of the insider threat campaigns, and that ransomware campaign or threat actor highly leveraged this TTP, and the organizations which got compromised were clueless. Like they had all the defense and dip solutions, they have all the patches updated, they have zero vulnerabilities on their network, but still they got compromised. Upon various, upon the forensics and so on, they got to know it's an insider threat execution of the ransomware. So that is about one of the insider threat.
Might be some technical glitch. Maybe you talk about the strategy.
Yeah, I'll talk about strategy.
Yeah.
So that is one of the case study about insider threat delivering ransomware variants to their organization. So we have seen over the past few years, like from 2017 to 2019, we have seen largely credential compromises or credential breaches available in various sources, such as open and closed web. So organizations were reacting to such incidents, and they were creating some frameworks in order to defend from the password breaches. So post that, from 2018 to 2020, there were information stealers, and botnets, which has a trend shift, and they started exfiltrating data or DDoSing the organization and so on. So during the pandemic, the ransomware threat actors have come back with new TTPs, leveraging various such payloads, be it information stealer or botnet or through initial access and so on. So now we have to evolve with a focused or determined approach, wherein it has to empower the teams, empower the organization as well through the leadership, governance and governance policies, and engage the teams with the right tools, with the right mindset and the right solutions and the right processes, and execute. Teams should execute with a focused and determined approach, like carry out threat hunts based on the TTPs observed in the campaigns, and as well as gather threat intelligence on various ransomware threat actors, like ransomware group tracking or ransomware TTP tracking, in fact, and carry out threat hunts on their networks with the TTPs, and create detections or onboard detections on their SIEM or EDR or whatever defense in-depth solutions the organizations use. So with a focused approach, we can always win and be proactive than the threat actors. I think I'll
yeah. So is it solved? Okay. So I think there was one thing. I think you talk about the strategy. There was one slide which we have on the prescription of ransomware. Till now we talked about some of those interesting case studies, right? The how attacker moved throughout the infrastructure. What are the different techniques and procedures that he has used? So it can be a definitely different number of permutation and combination, right? Because as per MITRE, we have seen there are like 18 tactics and like 150 plus of techniques that it can use. So it's not that every time it will follow the same path. It will be different permutation and combination that attacker will try to follow. And the characteristics which I have presented in the beginning, it can be multiple different characteristics combining together, maybe a different 2 or 3 groups working together. So every time we will see a different behavior. So maybe Kinshuk, you want to talk about that prescription a bit, and then we just close.
I will put it the other way.
Yeah.
Instead of giving you a prescription like a doctor says, paracetamol 1 BD or amoxicillin 2 TDS or whatever. Now you've understood ransomware. You've understood the MITRE. Now anybody can keep raising their hands and tell me what should you as a security practitioner do, priority wise, to stop a ransomware?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, one by one. Just one each.
Can we get
just one-liners, one sentence each? Because there will be many things. Somebody will say, I will stop phishing. I will say, I will stop public. I will, my public-facing websites, I will ensure they are patched or various things. Everybody, I'm sure many things are coming. I would say, while you can't solve the full problem, but you tell me what all priority-wise, one by one. Let's start from this side. Use your lungs till then. We are having some technical problem. It's a malware or a ransomware, I don't know.
Okay, maybe you can stand up and be louder.
Okay, absolutely. You've hit the nail. If you don't have EDR, you are okay. Let's give others a chance. EDR is today in any enterprise absolute must. Next.
Yes. No, but we talked about the exfiltration phase.
Yeah. So having a good backup and restoration strategy and testing it is absolutely a must. Okay, networker, Dell networker, or some of the other solutions. Okay.
So one more is I think air gap backup ke saath you can have a honeypot for early detections.
Okay, that's a very good thing. That means you have a juicy honeypot with a passwordless file shares, and you will have some file called some username and password. So he will go and open that text file, and moment you can set up your rule. If somebody is now logging in with that user ID, SIM should be told.
Yeah, onboarding cyber security expert.
Onboarding up?
Yeah, cyber security experts
Yeah,
in-house.
Okay, so
Because,
I will put it everything. You have your CISO organization, your security practitioners, and security training. Finally, the workforce has to be good.
No, one point which you mentioned about the analyst, right? It's not just person sitting over here,
Yes,
they were
yes.
trying to
So it's
correlate.
Along with the tools.
The
we
right
need to have a
mindset.
Technology will not solve all your problems.
Correct.
Your processes.
The right mindset of the cyber analyst.
Okay, next, anybody else? Let us get the answer today here itself. What will solve our problem?
Two-factor authentication.
Okay, one here.
Two-factor authentication.
Absolutely.
And maybe possibly VPN for remote workers also.
So all important things like getting into the environment. One, okay.
I'll tell about information security policy.
Yeah, policy will emanate from your CISO organization.
Yeah,
He will put the policy, he will put the strategy, he will put the first is strategy, okay. Then is the second layer is your last is operations. In the middle is your, I would say, the technical, not the technical, it is your tactics or whatever. So that is the three layers will have to be done. But of course, from policy, the full strategy right up to operations will emanate.
Yeah, then it comes access control.
Access control, we talked about MFA.
MFA, we talked about it.
And
Yeah,
it is not only MFA, it is password policy, password length, password, how many lockouts, password should, you should not set passwords to expire, force password change every month or every 45 days, don't have service IDs with password never expire, just because an application owner says, yeah, mera application break ho jayega. Security, this is the security requirement. While I'm not saying security should be an enabler, but yes.
Yeah, please.
Next.
Yeah, Sandeep.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. That means you're removing, that means somebody just goes into a machine. It is keyboard, mouse, and display.
Yeah.
It's a good strategy. That means there is no persistence. No, or you're typically, absolutely a good strategy. Your VDI is like that.
Yeah.
Your VDI, if you remember,
discrimination.
display. You enter, new image is created. From there, you hop across into your environment.
Any questions? I think someone had a question.
Yeah, if you have a counter question, if you want to counter him and say, no, this is not a good strategy.
Yes,
I am looking for the best policy to stop ransomware. Your jobs can be lost only if you have a ransomware. I'm telling you, this whole conference here revolves around actually ransomware. This is where it can be debilitating, detonating to an organization.
I think we need to have a zero trust framework in place.
Just 1 minute, one at a time.
Okay, least privilege. Yeah. Okay,
I think
any more?
instead of a zero trust, I think least privilege, I think better is zero trust framework.
Yeah, so zero trust means while you trust, but verify everything. Basic zero trust is this. So always verify everything.
Don't trust, always verify.
Don't trust, verify everything. Next. Sir, zero trust, I will be honest, zero trust is like a story. While you have to implement that story with identity management, with your good proxy solution, through everything. But yes, implement zero trust, how you implement using tools, technology, or processes is something that you have to do. Okay, anybody else?
Background check on hiring, which is very important to
so background check on your, again that comes under insider.
Yep, insider threat.
Yeah, so let's call it tabletop exercises. Okay, so tabletop exercises, so you have to run people through, I am telling you, when an incident happens, there's chaos. Nobody wants to take charge. There is a lot of opinion, we should do this, we should do this, but there has to be an incident commander. It is absolutely battle. At that time, time is ticking, the clock is counting. At that time, there has to be somebody who takes in 3 inputs and he says, execute this, stop this, bring down these servers. If it is Kaseya, Kaseya was a very important tool within an enterprise. Bring down all Kaseya servers.
IT management.
Cut down internet. Cut down internet means cut down internet. That means the organization, see, there is a business issue. Cut down internet means the world knows it is 404 now as far as this company is concerned. You know what 404 is. That means when somebody accesses, you get a 404 error. But it's a decision. You will exist or you may not exist. Time is ticking. You have to take that decision, inform the leadership. I need to cut down internet. I need to bring down these servers. Have your priority checklist, one by one, start bringing things up. Once you know who's my attacker, what is he doing, and by then you would have obviously seen screenshots, so many $1 million, go to this website, .onion, pay so many, create an account, pay so many Bitcoins. It is not easy to pay in Bitcoins even if you have Bitcoins.
Yeah. As I mean, if nobody has any questions, I'll quickly summarize with the, go ahead.
Valid use cases for using those tools.
Yes.
When you call it as living of the land, how does an analyst differentiate between a valid versus invalid? Because it's the same tool that is used by an attacker as well as the
it's called PowerShell.
PowerShell.
Why should you allow PowerShell to an enterprise user? Allow it only for the administrators?
No, actually, his question, I'll rephrase the question.
Yeah.
So his question is, we have so many legit tools like CertUtil or PowerShell or be it VB scripting and so on. So how does the analyst differentiate between a malicious intent versus the benign intent? So it comes with a three-step approach, as I mentioned, like gather threat intelligence, ingest the IOCs, ingest the TTPs, carry out the threat hunt, onboard the detections to the SIM, if the organization is using the SIEM tools. So have a robust detection mechanism wherein it has to trigger a notable or a risk rule where it's really malicious in nature or with the pattern. Like, for example, if it is a benign behavior, like only CertUtil is being executed or only PowerShell is being executed, SIM tool will not trigger any rule. But with the behavior-based detection, like the TTP-based detection, for example, as Kinshuk mentioned with various stages, like right from initial execution till the exfiltration. So if it matches 3 TTPs or 4 TTPs, it will trigger a rule. So that's how an organization can differentiate between a benign versus malicious intent or the cyber analyst.
Still, his question is very valid, living of the
very
land.
good question.
Most of
this is about false positive and true positive, no? See, 80% of the notifications are false positive, but can you ignore them?
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to differentiate also. It's not always that you will ingest these IOCs and you will get those results because methods which are followed to use in the living of and same tools will be also being used by some of the internal employees also for the same purpose, right? So I think that's definitely to draw a gray line about it, and that's where that's one incident attacker might get successful about his operations. I think very good discussions. I think very lot of good case studies that we discussed, characteristics we have discussed. We discuss about double, triple extortions and what are the different ransomware trends, etc. And we also got some of those good prescriptions or maybe what we can do better to defend ransomwares. It was really good discussions, and we are already time up. I would like to thank Kinshuk, Adi for all their insights. Maybe we can take last question and we can.
One final question. So we spoke about a lot of zero-day vulnerabilities. My question to Adi is, zero-day vulnerabilities and zero-day threats. And now, according to you, how is the threat profile on the Indian industries, the current Indian industries taking on? What is, according to you, what is the threat profiles and how is that going on in India?
Very good question. So for your question, if an organization has to focus on which threat actor or what campaigns are targeting a specific industry, the organization should have some threat intel process or threat intel program implemented in their organization, wherein they can get the right set of feeds and as well as custom feeds from OSINT and as well as from the closed sources.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's really good discussions. Thank you.
Yeah.